This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall.
Good afternoon. And can I welcome members and invited guests to and the public, both here in the public gallery and also watching on the webcast, to today's meeting, February meeting of the London Assembly's Environment Committee. Thank you for joining us as we take this opportunity to assess London's progress on key environmental priorities as set out in the London Environment Strategy, which was approved in May 2018, and the Mayor's current mandates and delivery plans. Earlier today, we held an informal workshop, which I think almost everybody here participated in, with various Londoners, experts, other stakeholders to discuss major environmental challenges and achievements. The insights gained from these discussions will inform this afternoon's formal session, and the outcomes of today's meeting will guide the committee's upcoming scrutiny of the Deputy Mayor for Environment and Energy, as well as shape our future investigations over the 26 to 28 period by the London Assembly Environment Committee, including scrutiny of the updating of the London Plan later on this year. So before we get started, can I just remind everybody, if you haven't already done so, to put your phones on silent. And once you put them on silent, can you not put them in front of the microphone, because it will still pick them up? And also, can you make sure that you do adjust your microphone, bringing it closer to you, and also adjusting the neck so that it picks you up when you're speaking. If you need to move it around, can you pick it up by the base and not by the gooseneck, because they tend to break, and we will have to charge you the cost of the microphones if you break them. I don't know whether the last bit's actually true, but we'd rather you just don't break the microphones. And as I may have said previously, we are not expecting a fire alarm. So if there is an alarm, follow the directions from the staff on how to leave the building. Members of the public who are tuning in are encouraged to follow at London Assembly on various social media platforms. If you are a user of X, please include the hashtag Assembly Environment for this meeting. Now, we've got a few short items of business, formal business, to go through first before we get into the main discussion. Could I now ask our committee clerk, Sal, to confirm whether we've received any apologies for the meeting?
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for absence have been received from Assembly Members Terrell, Prince and Boff, with Assembly Member Garrett attending as Assembly Member Boff's substitute. Additionally, Assembly Member Clark has sent apologies, for whom Assembly Member Hirani is attending as a substitute. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Assembly Members Garrett and Hirani for joining us in the informal session this morning and in the formal session now. Item 2, Declaration of Interests. Can I ask the committee to note the recommendations in item 2?
Noted.
Anybody got any other interest to declare relevant to the meeting? No? OK. Item 3, minutes of the 8th of January meeting. Are they confirmed by the committee as a correct record?
Agreed.
Thank you. We have a summary list of actions, which is on pages 53 to 64 of your agenda pack. Could I ask you to note the completed and ongoing actions?
Noted.
Thank you. And also, we've received some additional correspondence, which I hope is also noted as received.
Noted.
Great. Responses to committee outputs. Could I ask the committee to note the output responses which we received from the Mayor of London and also the Minister for Aviation, Maritime and Decarbonisation attached as appendices to the agenda report?
Noted.
Thank you. Finally, we're on to item 6, which is our main item of business, which is a discussion on the progress London has made on key environmental indicators, the main barriers to achieving the Mayor's environmental objectives, what further action needs to be taken by the Mayor, the GLA, government and other partners. Now, today's meeting, as you know, is slightly different from our normal format. This morning we began with the interactive roundtables in informal section, where participants reflected on London's achievements and also talked about what more needs to be done across key themes: air quality, biodiversity, water, climate, food, growing, waste, and identified areas across all of those, maybe more, where more effort needs to be put in. We were really pleased to hear from Lucy Seagull, who was our keynote speaker, who provided valuable insights into London's environmental progress and the challenges ahead. And we also heard from Emma Howard-Boyd. To summarise the discussions, thank you very much to those who volunteered to do this. And to feedback from our earlier informal session, we've invited a representative from each of the roundtables to share their reflections. These contributions will help shape the committee's ongoing work and future priorities. These experts are here with us on the chamber floor today. Each will have 3 minutes only to present on their assigned area that their table was covering, followed by a brief Q&A from the Assembly members, and I'm guessing that we probably won't have time for anyone on the committee to get in probably more than once. About 1:10, we're going to have a presentation on a key environmental issue, which we've selected. We also did the call for evidence, and we have selected something that we want to hear more about. And the presentation will be followed by a short Q&A then. And I'm now going to welcome all of our guests. So we have Alethea Warrington, who is Head of Aviation, Heat and Energy from Possible. We have Simon Burkett, who is the Founder and Director of Clean Air in London. We have Syed Ahmed, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Community Energy London. We have Fiona Deer, who is the co-founder of the Restart Project. We have Daniel Reist, who is the Senior Research Officer at the Centre for London. Tim Webb, who is the Director of the London Parks and Gardens Trust. We have Catherine Rosen, who's the Chief Executive Officer from the Orchard Project. Tayshan Hayden Smith, who is founder of Grow to Know and has also just joined the I'm going to get the new... the London Sustainable Development Commission in its new guise under a different name, which I've now forgotten. Charlie Wood, who's the London Director at the Environment and Energy, also a member of the Sustainability Commission. Oliver Hayes, who's Head of Policy and Campaigns Global Action Plan. Anissa Khan, who's also from Global Action Plan. Emma Howard-Boyd, who's stepped out just for a minute but will be joining us very shortly as well. So I'm going to start by asking Alethea and Simon to share insights on environmental health, transport, air quality and noise. And I'll start with Alethea, and to help you, we've popped up a 3-minute screen up there, and I will sort of stop you as we get towards 3 minutes because we've got a lot of people to hear from. So we'll take Alethea first, then we'll take Simon, and then we'll take questions to them both from the committee. Alethea. You need to press the button to make the microphone come on.
Is that working now?
That certainly is.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone. So in terms of achievements, there was a lot of recognition of the progress that has been made on road safety and clean air quality. The ULEZ was very much welcomed. The impact on clean air, also measures such as school streets, low traffic neighbourhoods, progress on public transport, so the introduction of the Elizabeth line, the electrification of buses, measures on cycling and active travel, the introduction of cycling superhighways, measures to support more diverse people to cycle were really, really welcome, as were the transition away from diesel taxis, the support for cabs to go electric, and measures to improve nature, clean up the Thames, biodiversity action plans. We also welcomed the London Assembly's opposition to airport expansions, which would have a hugely negative impact on noise and air for Londoners. In terms of what we'd like to see going forward and the pressing issues, there was a feeling that we really need more action from the Mayor on air pollution, that the measures that have been introduced are incredibly welcome, but we really need to see a plan for how London will get up to World Health Organization standards on air pollution, and that it's very much not job done on this. There's concern that London's air still exceeds those limits. I would really like to see an approach that focuses on social and racial justice, on the inequalities that exist in London in terms of who has access to clean air, and would like to see work with communities to develop those solutions. Would like to see action on pollution from wood-burning stoves as well, because the focus on pollution from cars is really, really good, but it's not the whole pictures. Would like to see measures to ensure that all Londoners can access public transport, so not just some areas. Would like to see more work on modal shifts, so getting cars off the road, ensuring people have good alternatives, good access to public transport. Would really love to see a ban on high carbon ads on public transport, so things like no more adverts for SUVs or flights. Would really like to see a delivery plan on how the Warm Homes Plan can be delivered across London, so ensuring that all Londoners can benefit from those measures to install clean energy measures, insulation, which of course will help people to tackle indoor air pollution as well as outdoor air pollution. We'd like to see more work on modal shift, reducing car ownership, access to electric cars via electric car clubs, so that car ownership isn't the only option. We'd like to see an update to the standards of cars that are covered by the ULEZ over time, so to keep amping up ambition on that. And yeah, we'd like to see continuing opposition to airport expansion, which will have a really bad impact on noise and air pollution.
That was a very dense 3 minutes. Well done. I feel like you deserve a round of applause because you finished exactly at the end of the 3 minutes.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for getting us off to such a precise on-time start, Alethea. I'm going to challenge Simon to match that and do exactly 3 minutes, and you'll be covering the same kind of area.
Thank you very much, and I will I benefit from trying not to duplicate.
Thank you.
I think the first letter I ever wrote to the Mayor of London was in April 2006. I think one of the wonderful achievements, particularly by the current Mayor, has been that we have slashed levels of air pollution by about 2/3 since that time. Unfortunately, the World Health Organization slashed their guidelines from 40 to 10 for nitrogen dioxide in 2021 and halved it for particles. So in one sense, we're back where we thought we were 20 years ago. So we really need to look forward and take this as a serious problem that still needs more work to do. The Mayor has achieved really astonishing things in the last few years. His political leadership on ULEZ expansion was tremendous. The Elizabeth line has helped. We've heard about cycling infrastructure. The EV charging network has also expanded to about 24,000. We've seen some electrification of train lines at mainline stations, which has helped. A big rise in cargo bikes. One of the perhaps hidden benefits which you asked us to look for was reductions in noise. We feel there is not enough monitoring of noise, but the 20-mile-an-hour speed limits have probably helped that. Issues which are still outstanding, there are still astonishingly 39 locations which are exceeding the World Health Organization 2005 guideline and the legal limit from 2010. That is something which most urgently needs to be addressed. We're desperately keen that the Mayor should sign up to a commitment of NO2 of 20 micrograms per cubic metre by 2030, which would match his commitment for particles. We need to see the updating of the monetisation of the health harms of aircraft noise. Aircraft expansion we've heard about. Ozone is an increasing problem in London, so we have slashed nitrogen dioxide. We've still got to slash another third, and similarly for particles. But ozone is an increasing problem. It's the most irritant gas for humans. The last things I'd just like to highlight, the new London plan, we need to see zero air emissions and tackle indoor air, NO2 of 20 by 2030. I have a letter here from the Climate Change Committee saying we need to phase out wood-burning stoves, we need to phase out diesel, we need to please support Ella's law, and please reply to the Environmental Audit Committee, everyone watching, by the 3rd of March. They have an inquiry which is air pollution in England.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Very slightly over time. So we're going to treat Alethea as the gold standard. And now, just before I see if there are any Assembly members who want to come in, I have just seen a group of people walk into the chamber. Are you from Eltham? Are you from Eltham? Are you from the Henwick Primary School in Eltham? Can you give us a wave? Hello. Hi. So we're talking about environmental priorities for London, and we've started off talking about, is the air dirty or clean? How noisy is London? And what more we need to do about transport. Is transport great or not? And we've just heard from two people who've been talking about things that we were discussing this morning, and I'm now going to see if there are any Assembly members who want to ask them any questions. Anybody who wants to come in? I can see that Assemblymember Polansky would like to kick off.
Partly it's to ask what comes next, and without asking a leading question, particularly around road user charging, but are there other initiatives that you think this is where the Mayor should head next?
Well, I think that the simple thing is to comply with the World Health Organization air quality guidelines, and that will drive a whole lot of things, which is what we've seen in the past, which is cleaner buses, cleaner taxis, more active travel and so on. So it's been clear on the output we want to achieve, and there'll be a whole raft of measures needed.
Yeah, I think it'd be really good to have a plan, like a really detailed plan of how London is going to get there. And within that, there's a lot of measures that would be really helpful. So active travel, electric car clubs, access to public transport.
Electric car clubs, yes. I'm going to bring in Assembly Member McCartney.
Thank you. And what would you like to see from national government to enable that to happen easily?
Well, I think it would be great if this committee and the Mayor and others would put in a submission to the Environmental Audit Committee emphasising the need for more powers and resources for London to actually tackle some of these things. You know, one example being wood burning. You know, this 5th of July this year will be the 70th anniversary of the first Clean Air Act, and we've still got visible wood smoke. This is just unacceptable. And the Mayor says he hasn't got enough powers. The fines don't. There's more training than there are fines, or even letters. So this is where we need some real action, which is more powers for London.
And I'd really like to see London keep holding national government to account on airport expansions, because London already is the world's worst impacted city from air pollution from flights. If the airport expansions go ahead, that's going to get even worse. And I think there's a really important role for London government to make the voices of Londoners heard.
Yeah, I mean, there is an argument that's which the Mayor was making back to me, because I asked him about airport expansion at the last Mayor's question time, and he was saying in some ways, because we've done so well on improving the air, that if Heathrow expands, it's using the headroom that we've created, and it will then make the air dirty again, which then makes the whole process of cleaning up London's air then completely, you know, why did we do that?
If I can make a very quick intervention, I mean, the European Union vastly tightened its air pollution laws on the 10th of December 2024, so reduced the NO2 levels from 40 to 20. If the UK adopted the air quality limits which applied across 27 neighbouring countries, I don't think it would be possible to have airport expansion in London.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I'm not quite sure how we can adopt that, but because now we're not part of the EU, but we do have parallel arrangements around a number of areas. However, I am going to move on to the next group of rapporteurs, I think I'm going to call you, because you are, who are going to talk about, and I think there's going to be three of you this time, talking about energy, buildings and waste. We've just heard from the two rapporteurs from the tables on transport, air quality and noise, energy, buildings and waste, and we'll start with Saeed. And again, there's a 3-minute pop-up there for you, and that will count down to 0, and then I'll start interrupting you. So, Saeed, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. And just to say, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity for this morning's workshop, because I thought that was really useful. And my one recommendation was please don't make it the only one, because I think that was a really useful input back, not only for me, but I think for hopefully Assembly members as well. Our discussion was quite wide-ranging, so I'm going to go through some of the points that I thought I found most interesting and perhaps might not always be represented elsewhere in the discussion. One, the use of microgrants and the way the funding cycle that the Mayor has given to small organisations can make a big difference. So the way in which those grants have been targeted and implemented by the groups actually have a huge impact. So please do continue with that, and please support those microgrants going through. Two, a better recognition amongst policymakers about place-based solutions. The way in which London is more than just, different types of boroughs, but smaller communities and different representations within those communities, and recognition of that actually is really important in how we shape policy going forward. Three, something colleagues mentioned before about the leadership, where we've seen national policy leadership wane in some of the areas in which we've been talking about today. The Mayor's been quite steadfast in a number of areas and quite leading in terms of, it's particularly my area of work on community energy, and that's been really welcome. Four, in a particular area around energy, we've seen the move from lots of data centres which are relatively modest in size to this whole concept of hyper-size data centres, a real issue in terms of London, in terms of both of energy and water consumption, and we need to bear that in mind. A new word, I had a couple of academics on my table, so there's some big words there. Over-responsibilisation. The focus on Londoners to do an awful lot and not actually on producers and retailers who push us to actually consume more and not take back some of the stuff that we use. So yes, we want Londoners to do more, be educated more, but also we need to make sure the other side of the equation is better balanced. There seemed to be also a bit of an aspect of missing about academia, the great work that they're doing, whether or not that's taken into account at the GLA London level and by policymakers in general. And also siloisation, another new word for me, but effectively how, and I think we're all guilty of this, and in that we're doing research work, but we're not looking across the wider piece of the interconnectedness of the different policy areas that we're talking about. There was a real strong support for meanwhile spaces, the changing nature of our high streets, and how we can use that sustainability and environment argument to bring those things down to resources at the local level. Also, educational opportunities the Mayor has to kind of look at the issues of overconsumption. And on the last bit that I really wanted to highlight is lots of good work is going on, but how well are all of we in telling Londoners about this work going at the local level? And that may way feed those opposing voices in terms of environment and net zero.
Thank you. Very slightly over time. Thank you very much, Saeed, for sticking mostly to time there. Fiona, I'm going to move straight on to you because obviously you'll be covering the same area as Saeed. So straight on to you. Thank you. You need to put on your microphone.
Thank you for having me. So I'm going to start. We had a little bit of a discussion about how people find it working with the GLA, and there was pretty unanimous positive feedback about the responsiveness of Assembly members. A little bit of a comment about kind of we'd love to see kind of more resulting from those conversations, but comments about the report. It's great to see reports that go beyond national mandates. So some quite positive feedback there. On buildings, there was support for the retrofit first approach. That's strong. It's making developers look at different approaches, not just demolition. And banning boilers in new builds was seen as a very positive policy. But there were conversations about there are very high targets for retrofitting by 2030, and there's only 4 years left. So how is that going to happen? And calls to unify planning across London for warm homes. On energy, we spent a lot of time talking about data centres. And again, the commitment to net zero by 2030 is brilliant, but data centres are going to gobble up a lot of that. So we need some dedicated policy around that. But there's examples of new house builds that won't have access to the grid until, for example, 2027. But meanwhile, there are tech companies buying up grid space. So that's an environmental issue and a democracy issue. So we need some dedicated policy on that. How many can London even handle? There are water issues as well as energy issues. Heat networks can help with this, but it needs to be kind of done in a joined up way. So heat networks need to be kind of really concentrated in the areas where there is access to heat, like data centres. So that's again about policy bringing things together. We talked a bit about heat pumps and how there were some comments that it's such a convoluted process to go through a heat pump that it's amazing that anyone does it. That actually things like there are the skills out there to put in heat pumps, but it's just that people can't find them. So it felt like there was a lot of opportunity to again help join that up, help with communications, to kind of demystify and myth bust rolling out heat pumps there. In terms of waste, we talked a lot about repair and reuse, and that there's very little in the London Plan around the circular economy. And so those of us that work in that area didn't have very much experience of working with the GLA. Which feels like it's missing a trick. At the moment, it's too hard to do the right thing. If you want to repair or reuse something, it's hard. It's even hard to recycle. And we have national targets. But there's loads happening in London without this work with the GLA. So we're trialling the UK's first repair voucher scheme. We have 3 fixing factories. We have 50 repair cafes. So if we could work with the GLA to join all of that up, we could kind of showcase really what a repair economy looks like. And I'm going to leave it there.
Sorry about the cutting of the throat gesture, but it's just the easiest one that everyone...
Got it.
Please stop now. Yep. Daniel, I'm going to move straight on to you, and you'll be covering the same area as Syed and Fiona, or maybe your table spoke about something completely different.
Thank you, Chair. I have summarised our table discussions in a nice little speech. The Mayor plays a vital role in sparking ambition, and when political leadership signals that environmental action actually matters, it unlocks the local activism we've discussed so much today and helps those communities, particularly those from protected groups. Through the transport policies that have been mentioned, so through ULEZ and through public transport use especially, the Mayor has been world leading, but it's at the local level where the biggest barriers are. So a lack of space, particularly for those community groups and charities. There's a lack of access to the kind of premises where we can see real affirmative action in that area. On waste and the circular economy, London has made big progress, and there has been a particular reduction in the use of landfill, where hardly any of our household waste actually is buried. Our energy from waste plants are the heartbeat of our city, but the system doesn't really reward people for reusing or reducing our waste. We have an urgent challenge of plastic recycling in the city, which needs greater attention from the Mayor, but also from national government as well. And reuse is more impactful than recycling, and it is harder to measure and support at scale. Those neighbourhood repair cafes and factories and the community initiatives do show a lot of promise, but they're often volunteer-led and lack coordination at a strategic level. And, of course, they lack consistent funding. It needs institutional backing and the citywide coordination that the Mayor can provide. On housing design, especially in those denser areas, it works against the recycling and local policies for reuse of construction materials, and it has been a mixed picture for reuse of those. So urgently needing to redesign those incentives for reusing materials and use the planning system to its full advantage, instead of treating environmental standards like the lowest hanging fruit. Specifically on buildings and retrofit and local energy more generally, there's an opportunity but also a challenge. The £231 million Warmer Homes London plan from 2025. It's 21,000 homes available for retrofit. It's a significant boost to the capital's resilience. And the planning system has generally been more geared towards environmental standards and sustainability. And the expansion of district heat networks and renewable energy is encouraging. But there's a lack of coordination and a lack of consistency, which allows things like data centres to take up the lion's share of grid impact. So it's major obstacles, and it leaves those housing targets at risk. Organisations lack the strategic insight which the Mayor can provide, and while they have lots of ambition, they're not coordinated. Finally, the regulation really matters. They have the blessing of a planning system which is strategically granted to the Mayor to authorise. So whether it's restricting advertising on carbon-heavy industries on TfL or shaping heat networks, the Mayor can lead. But when those strategies don't align, such as in the waste sector, the momentum can stall. So the task that we face, and the one which the Mayor faces and can lead on, is improving that coordination, using the blessing of that strategic planning system to upgrade London's environmental credentials and scale up what already works, not just seeking something new, and designing those systems for... I shall leave it there.
Okay, thank you very much. And sorry to keep cutting everyone off, but obviously, as you can see, we're only halfway through. And we want to hear from Global Action Plan, and they're going to talk about data centres, actually. So you've already mentioned them a couple of times, and then Emma and Charlie are going to say a couple of things. Can we just say goodbye to our colleagues from Eltham? Nice. Bye. Good to see people from South London in the chamber, that's what I say. Okay, can I see from colleagues? I've seen two. This one, three. Okay, I'm going to take Assemblymember Mahfouz, and then Hironi, and then Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to focus on waste, and obviously there's a number of big policy changes that are coming in the next couple of years around deposit return schemes and so on, which should hopefully be driving improved recycling behaviour, etc. But one of the key things that came up on all of those tables was about moving up the waste hierarchy to reduce and reuse, moving to the circular economy. What other golden opportunities do you see for the government and for London in terms of moving at pace to a more circular London?
Well, we do have the Circular Economy Growth Plan that will be coming out in the first half of 2026. So hopefully we will see things like right to repair legislation that's in line with the EU, which means that things are made better, so they need less repair. What we think we really need is a national reuse target, because recycling targets don't encourage reuse, they actually disincentivise it. In the absence of that, I think that you can trial reuse targets at a London level, and one of the barriers to that is measuring all of the reuse that happens. So if I would love to see that happening across London, almost trialling it, introducing a reuse target so that it makes it much more likely that it's going to happen at a national level. The other thing is skills. We need much more support for skills and apprenticeships.
Daniel, do you want to add something to what Fiona's just said? And then we'll come on to Assemblymember Hironi.
Yeah, that is it, and absolutely fully agree with Fiona. And there's also the case, I think there's an element of ambition where the public sector can take a lot of the, can really start this conversation through supply chains and procurement. That's really a good first step for how we can reduce the amount of waste that we're putting into sending and to reuse. The consumer attitudes is obviously much harder, and it would be much harder to influence at a London-wide level. But through regulations and through the planning system, as I've mentioned, there is a way of doing it.
Thank you. Can I just remind you to switch the microphones off when you've finished? Assemblymember Hironi.
Thank you. And also turning to Fiona on an issue that you mentioned in your opening remarks about heat pumps and generally about the way that Londoners, or actually anywhere in the country really, heat and power their homes. So what more do you think can be done in this space to encourage installation, and how does that play into, obviously London has a slightly different dynamic, let's say compared to my parents' generation growing in London compared to now, where you have more renters and fewer owner-occupiers, and that dynamic where you might rely on a landlord to install the equipment, but the renters paying the bills and the incentives and the kind of investment returns are in a different way as they have been in the past. So how do you see, or where do you see where areas where this can be improved?
A few things came up, including making it easier, for example, for heat pumps to be installed in gardens. I think there are regulations that are currently kind of going against that. There were also a lot of conversation about the things that you need to do before you have a heat pump, so making your home more efficient and simple things that you can do to reduce the heat in your house in the summer, and actually a bit more education about that sort of thing. So we focused a lot of the conversation on just kind of helping people to kind of know what to do, which includes kind of getting there before heat pumps. I don't know if either of the other speakers have more.
Thank you. Well, I think one of the big problems is that there's so much poor press in terms of where heat pump does not work. So there is a very good history of where heat pumps do work. London has specific challenges. We recognise that in terms of everything from skills. But one of the big things that we can do is just make sure that where we've got good examples of where heat pumps working across London's a mix of different buildings and homes, we need to kind of really make sure that we alert people that these things can work in the right situations in London. The support from government is attractive, but still makes lots of the heat pump installs quite challenging. But if we don't advertise, if we don't promote some of these heat pumps at the local level, we're going to have a real uphill struggle, and actually London facing its decarbonisation of heat challenge.
Okay, but there are still some issues that are national level that need to support the move to heat pumps, because they are effectively, you're moving people off gas, which is much cheaper, onto a form of electrical energy, much more expensive. So that definitely still needs to be addressed. But I think that's a bit above our pay grade. Thank you very much for those three contributions. Assemblymember Garrett has said he's going to hold on asking a question to the next group. So we're going to move on, and we're going to start with Tim Webb, who has now got 3 minutes without repetition, deviation, or oh no, that's a different programme. If you would now like to talk us through where you got to in your discussions on green, blue, infrastructure and climate resilience.
I've never been very good at that game, I'm afraid, but I'll do my best. There are 7 points I've got from the table. So the role of grassroots and larger organisations being the first. There's a need for better matchmaking between grassroots charities and larger bodies, especially where funding and collaboration could unlock greater impact. Grassroots groups are often the true drivers of change, but they lack consistent support and long-term resources. Community energy and volunteering have produced hidden achievements, particularly in the high quality of London's green spaces, despite chronic underfunding. But given decent funding, the rewards would be amplified. The second point, we've just lost the audience, but schools as a gateway to engagement. Schools are one of the most effective ways to engage Londoners in environmental and community projects. However, without unified top-down support in the education system, success ends up lying in the hands of individual teachers or head teachers choosing to participate and drive action. Curriculum pressures also restrict opportunities for children to spend time outdoors or to engage in local projects. Funding challenges, it's always the big one. Funding remains a critical limiting factor. Maintenance, routine admin, long-term care are extremely hard to fund. Short-term or glamorous projects, tree planting, new installations, pocket parks, they attract money, but that lack the long-term support needed for sustainability. Planting trees is not the achievement, nurturing them over decades is. So there's a call for long-term funding, support for ongoing maintenance and flexibility and unrestricted funds. The fourth one was fragmented systems and data issues. Data is important for planning, prioritising, connecting interventions. Grassroots volunteers often care more about doing practical work than collecting data, so there's a bit of a gap there. Multiple data recording systems exist. Integrating them to reflect a multi-layered picture can prioritise delivery, aid planning and showcase brilliance, which can be scaled up. With data gathering and interpretation, we need a sort of VHS Betamax moment, a need for a universally adopted system voted by people using the systems. There's a lack of clarity around green space ownership responsibility, which worsens the challenge. And a London-wide coordinating body, the Assembly, could help set standards or provide shared infrastructure. The importance of community action, everyday actions like a parent litter picking in the school run can snowball into broader actions. The challenge, how to support these people, help them scale up and capture their impact. Systemic barriers. London-wide leadership could significantly accelerate progress, particularly around environment and transport, but current support is patchy. Speeding up with 20 seconds left, so skip a bit. Climate tech tools are improving, could help measure progress, target interventions and visualise change. The Mayor's promoting philanthropy, but the available pot is limited, so there's potential for corporate sectors to contribute to unrestricted funds, investment mechanisms aimed at supporting maintenance and long-term work, and better alignment between technology, data and community action.
Thank you. I think you've just become the gold standard because you were 2 minutes inside. Can I move straight on to Catherine then? Catherine, would you like to amplify what Tim has been saying? What came up on your table?
Thank you. We wanted to highlight some of the successes around green and blue infrastructure, particularly the urban forestry plan, which has really smashed its targets, and lots of successes around pocket parks, nature recovery and tree planting in London, despite huge funding cuts across all local authorities. So I think it's a real success of both statutory and the NGO sector in achieving that. So after that, we didn't really talk too much about green and blue infrastructure because we were mainly looking at the systemic and structural barriers to actually having those things improve. So we went a bit off-piste and talked more about things which weren't really within our area of expertise. But I'll try and summarise that into three main buckets. The first was trying to improve the links between the silos of green and grey infrastructure. So how we can use water more, making those barriers less restrictive so that it's much more joined up. And there were some really good examples around no-dig projects. So when you're digging up for road building, why not use that opportunity to put trees in? So trying to link those things more together. We also talked about retrofitting a lot and the use of green roofs. There were some brilliant examples from other cities about how green roofs can be used to grow things, create food for communities, and but London could really lead the way in doing that. There's some great examples in London too. And we talked a lot about use of existing stock, so the threat of expansion of development into green belt land. But we've got so much vacant property already in London, you know, how can we use that more so that we reduce the pressure on green spaces? And the opportunities there for green jobs. How long have I got? Oh, I've got loads of time. So, yeah, lots of...
my point.
Yeah, so lots of opportunities for increasing the awareness within young people that green jobs were an opportunity for them, and how we can increase funding so that London can really lead the way in terms of green jobs. And just one last point about devolution. We're all quite excited about the devolution of power to London, with some slight risks around the rise of the far right, should they take over, but the Reform person didn't turn up to our table, so maybe that's going to be okay. But yeah, just there was enthusiasm about London having more power to actually make policies that focused on climate and equity rather than profit. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Catherine. I'm going to move straight on to Tayshan.
Thank you. I'm going to try not to duplicate or repeat anything that's been said. So we had a very big focus on lived experience, and maybe I'm case study A of that. This is very unfamiliar settings for me, and a lot of foreign language, a lot of technical terms, a lot of academic kind of approaches, and I think lived experience is at the heart of kind of guiding London, especially on an environmental front, but bringing social justice and racial justice into that conversation. And I think the intersectionality of those two, that approach is really important in centering the people who need that support the most. And so as someone born and raised in Ladbroke Grove, North Kensington, I've kind of been at the sharp end of a lot of those inequalities, a lot of those disparities in the most affluent borough in the country. And so seeing how local authority and how grassroots groups and how the GLA and how these things are at times slightly disconnected, and And so the messaging is really amazing, and hearing social justice, environmental justice being mentioned in the same sentence, but actually when you look at how that is implemented and how that's delivered, sometimes there is a big disconnect, which still leads to kind of funding being allocated to groups and organisations who are kind of like traditional or are more kind of environmental leaning, as opposed to really addressing the kind of social injustices on the ground, which I think are at the heart of equipping those local people with the tools that they need to address some of those environmental challenges. And often those environmental challenges aren't seen, they're not felt, they're not understood, but they're impacted nonetheless. And so I think that leads on to my point around some of the discussion points around young people. And I was so glad to see young people in the room today. And we spoke about the kind of short-term investment, which kind of links to kind of the change of politics, the change of people, personnel, and the lack of accountability. And actually, a lot of investment in environment requires long-term thinking and kind of legacy funding, which requires kind of disconnecting the individual to the decision and really shaping, making decisions on behalf of a collective. So people can take that forwards and like you said, around the metrics of success around planting a tree. Was you said that, right? Yeah. The metrics of success of planting a tree isn't the actual planting of the tree, it's the 10, 20, 30 years of nurturing that tree. And I think that the same could be said about the communities and how we treat those communities and how we fund and support them. Again, emphasising the point that the most powerful voices are those with lived experience, and bringing them to more decision-making spaces and tables. And yeah, I mean, reiterating that point, investing in young people. Heat came up a lot, and the intersectionality of how heat, housing, and adapting public services and homes, but also public understanding, so informing and involving as opposed to imposing. And I'll try and keep it gold standard by ending there.
Thanks very much, Tayshan. And last but not least, Charlie, also on the same topic area.
Thanks. So we had a really detailed conversation around green and blue infrastructure, so I'll just try and move through it quickly. So the big achievements that we highlighted was the first local wildlife sites, London's biodiversity strategy, urban greening factor, and various SUDS initiatives over the years. But some of the hidden achievements, which is interesting because one of them was data, and actually having Giggle, which has a lot of that data, we sort of know where, what we have, how it's being used.
Green space information for Greater London, just in case there's anyone who doesn't know what Giggle is.
But we'll now be Googling it.
Yes.
And so therefore, I thought, actually, our table thought that we did have quite a lot of data that is used, but we need to make sure that it is used wisely so that we take the right actions. There has been a lot of funding initiatives from the Mayor, and the Mayor's funding does allow bringing forward of projects, and that allows that inspiration within the community that we've heard reflected around the table already. Some of the issues, the commercialisation of the park, so balancing out the need for funding of the parks versus nature, loss of green space, astroturfing for sports and recreation. And some examples of that were Gunnersbury Park, Victoria Park and Brockwell Park. There was a feeling around the table that we need a bit more teeth around making sure that we have consequences to those who do not meet the biodiversity net gain or the urban greening factor, and that the ongoing maintenance is factored in, which has been mentioned. And the example of Wimbledon Park was used there, and is there some central support that could be given on that to understand exactly how that's working. Also, that the metrics on the state of the sort of green spaces are not being used in planning applications. We also wanted more use of Section 106 and SIL money used near the new developments to look after parks in the longer term. Green belts to ensure that it's the right data is used to take those decisions wisely. There was a discussion around sea level rise and surface water flooding. making sure that is there enough being put into that place, and how can we secure the action and the funding. We touched on water resources, biosecurity, invasive species. It went on and on. So what more could we have done? I suppose centralisation of projects to make sure that we can really scale things up. And listening to the community voice when infrastructure projects are being done. Is the Mayor's voice being played into central government on the need for projects such as a Future Thames Barrier? That wasn't raised by me, but by the group. What else?
Your time is up.
And my time is up.
Sorry to cut you off in your prime. OK, so we've heard from those 4 tables that focus on quite a broad set of items. Can I just see, you guys haven't come in yet. Do you want to come in now, Neil? Yeah. OK.
So I was interested in issues around land use and, greening in urban areas, parks, street trees, and obviously that avoids some of the urban heating effect as well. And also, Catherine, you were pointing out, and also you, Charlie, about obviously building on the green belt. And obviously there's a balance then against how we build homes that Londoners need. And I wondered whether you had any thoughts on that, about how we balance that need for not wanting to be too dense in the housing types that we do build, because we want them to be a pleasant environment for people to live in, while at the same time avoiding just, endlessly expanding out into what is currently I should declare an interest as a representative of some of those bits of London, really lovely bits of green space on the edge of the city. Was that
just before we, because we are going to start to run out of time, and I've just seen. Did you want to come in as well, Gareth, on this one? Are you fine?
No. I was just nodding along.
Okay.
This is what
did you want
happens.
to? Okay. Just briefly, I'm just going to bring them all in.
We spoke a few times about including people with lived experience, and some obvious examples are going door to door, door knocking, or running a community meeting. Do you have any other ideas of things that policymakers or politicians should be doing to engage people with lived experience more?
Okay, and finally, I've seen Assemblymember Mahfouz, and then we'll come back to the 4 of you.
Thank you. And we talked about hidden achievements in our groups, and one thing that wasn't mentioned, and we also, Charlie Wood, mentioned in terms of having more teeth. So one thing that both myself and Assemblymember McCartney have in common is that we're both big lovers of beavers that have been reintroduced as part of the Green Roots Fund in our areas. Where should be the Mayor's ambitions in terms of rewilding for London?
Moving to other boroughs that don't begin with E would be a good place to start. The beavers have gone to Enfield and Ealing, by the way. That's what I'm referring to. OK, so I'm going to pass back over to you, and I'm start at Charlie and then work back to Tim if you want to come back on those points.
Yeah, great. So I think on the first question, so at the Environment Agency, we work really upstream of that planning. So, making sure the right policies are in the London Plan, which I think, mostly are. But then as master planning starts taking place and the local plans come in, if you start building in that development, making sure that the green spaces, the SUDs, the water efficiency targets, all of those things are in the development. But there is that constant challenge on building the densities versus the environment. But I think if you try and build it in up front, it does tend to flow nicely. But do understand there's competing demands. I'll leave the others.
Teshan, you had a specific question pointed towards you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think this is a matter of trust, and I think one thing that the pandemic did show, especially around the response and in terms of funding and supporting grassroots groups, was the kind of removal of those barriers to entry, and that requires a lot of trust, but also I think capacity building and building a relationship and rapport with people who understand the landscape, the nuances, the complexities of the communities that they live in, and meeting that need directly, and kind of not doing a big sweep of problem solving, but really looking at the individual challenges of a community, which are very complex and multi-layered. So it just takes a bit of effort in the short term for, I think, long-term benefits.
Catherine or Tim, do you want to add to the points that Charlie and Teshan have made?
I'll answer something about rewilding, that's okay. I think rewilding, it would be great to see beavers everywhere. So, how can the GLA encourage everyone to be more bold in putting these amazing initiatives, across London, and part of that is around more funding for these things, but also that it's great to see multi-year funding. I'll just bang the drum for that, as I always do. But where, rewilding initiatives are not one-year strategies. They take a long time to establish, and most of the funding is annual. So I'll leave it there. But
Thank you. And Tim, what would you like to add?
Back to the teeth, if possible, please. London Parks and Gardens is a statutory quantity in the planning system as an affiliate of the Gardens Trust. The proposal on the table from the government at the moment is to remove that status, which takes voices, community voices, out of the planning system. So we are losing our teeth. They are being pulled almost daily. Looking at some of the other aspects, land banking, I think, is probably a greater issue than restricting building on green space. There's so much property out there that can be developed and provide homes and other infrastructure projects. So it's not the lack of green space that is an issue. You don't need to build on the green spaces. They're fine. Look to some of the others first, I'd say. There was one other point which has now slipped my mind entirely. Was it on social justice, I think it was? Yeah, you were talking a lot about that. It is often something that is completely overlooked in the environmental sector and the planning sector. It's the people factor, and that's something I would really like to see adopted and argued for from all of you.
Well, thank you. Briefly.
Yeah, just on this business of you being taken off the list of statutory consultees, have you been given any indication from the GLA and the Mayor's office as to whether they'll be following suit, or whether they may be adopting a best practice approach of encouraging more voices rather than limiting?
The hint at the moment is that they are probably following the government lead on this, in that we were named in the London plan originally as the group that developers should consult. We've vanished from the latest iteration.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I can see that that might be something that we might wish to follow up. Can I just thank everybody for doing what you've just done? You did mostly manage to stick pretty firmly to the 3 minutes with a bit of assistance there, but that was quite a tough task after two big sets of discussions, and I think the Assembly members have also done well to constrain comments as well. So that's been very useful with bringing everything out of that session. We will also be picking up the comments through Slido, obviously most of which were made anonymously, to incorporate those into our programme. So I'm now immediately going to move on to Oliver Hayes. And you're going to talk, and possibly with Anissa as well, or just you, about data centres and their environmental impacts of, well, hyperscale AI data centres. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, for those who don't know, just hopefully these slides are moving through. Nope. Okay. That was working earlier, but isn't now. Okay. I'll try. I don't know if... Yeah, we worked on it earlier, and it was working, but... Okay. Hopefully that's working on the live stream as well. I know that was a consideration. Right. For those who aren't aware, data centres are essentially sheds full of servers running 24/7, using an enormous amount of electricity and needing to be cooled down, and they're proliferating. Sorry, Chair, yeah. Data centres are proliferating both in number and scale. The International Energy Agency estimates that the current generation of data centres focused on AI consume as much electricity as 100,000 households. We currently have about 100 data centres of this kind in the planning pipeline, more than half of which are scheduled for London. To put that into some context, here is the government's projection of electricity usage from data centres going out to 2050 under various different scenarios of decarbonisation. That top one, which is very plausible, would equate to data centres in 2050 using a quarter of the UK's entire electricity consumption as of last year. And this is in the context, obviously, of needing to electrify heat and transport and the many challenges we face on the decarbonisation journey. This is potentially undermining the progress, well, definitely undermining the progress that we've been making. From publicly available data, just 10 of the proposed data centres in planning will generate CO2 equivalent to the entire annual savings from switching to EVs. So decades of hard work and progress to shift from the internal combustion engine being undermined very quickly in a rush for AI. Of equal concern, if not greater concern, is the fact that because of grid constraints and the slow rollouts of, or the fast rollout of AI compared to the relatively slow rollout of renewables, the tech companies are very noisily advocating for data centres to be powered by on-site gas. This will enable them to build them quicker and will clearly have devastating consequences for the climate. Here is an infrared picture from a site in Memphis of gas plumes emitting from a data centre, including unburnt methane, so hugely damaging for the climate. The other element of this is that data centres need to be confident they can run the entire time, so they all have backup generation on site. This is usually in the form of diesel generators, hundreds and hundreds of diesel generators for these AI data centres. This is taken from a comment just this week about a proposed data centre in Edinburgh, which will produce diesel emissions equivalent to 100,000 idling cars outside. This, again, has additional impacts for climate, but clearly, particularly in a London context, risks undermining the progress that we've heard about on air quality. The other thing is that we are very concerned that these impacts are not being taken into consideration in the planning process. 2 weeks ago, the government wrote to us as part of a legal challenge we brought against the government's decision to approve a data centre, and they admitted that they made a serious logical error in approving this data centre, which did not have an environmental impact assessment and did not take into account any of these aspects. The developer continues to push on in that case, and that is a concerning expression of where the industry is at with regards to their environmental obligations. As is mentioned, this is not just a technical issue, this is about communities and people in place. We were joined outside the court by representatives of communities from around London who are opposing data centres in areas where they live, stretching from Havering to Brick Lane, where the social housing needs of the community are being distanced in favour of a data centre there. So here are some data setting out how much pressure different bits of London are going to be coming under. That top line, Havering, as mentioned there, is nearly 1 gigawatt. So that's roughly a nuclear power station's worth of electricity demand. And as you can see, boroughs, including Tower Hamlets, Newham, Brent and elsewhere, are looking at significant pressure coming from data centres. The spread around London is fairly diverse. The purple dots there are existing data centres and the orange ones are proposed and planned. You can see where the various clusters are. It should be noted that those that are existing and data centres have been around for a long time are much, much smaller. The ones that are coming through now are orders of magnitude bigger. The other issue we're very concerned about and want more attention on is the water impact. This is a map of the water stress in different regions of the UK, and you will be not surprised to see that the water stress in the southeast and London is acute, and this is overwhelmingly where data centres are being proposed. As has been mentioned, there are impacts beyond the ecological impact. The big tech's kind of monopolisation of grid connections means that housing developments are unable to be completed. People can't move into homes because there is no grid. And we were very worried also about the potential impacts down the line for bills. Every additional demand such as that coming from data centres requires additional infrastructure, grid upgrades, more renewables than otherwise be needed. And those costs will inevitably filter down to bill payers. We're very concerned about that, and that risks huge harm where it needn't be. So in terms of what we think Londoners need, we're very keen that the London Plan contains a dedicated data centre policy that looks at the climate, water and air pollution impacts and the mitigation for those impacts, but also has a starting point of need. Talking about the need for AI in broad terms is as meaningless as talking about the need for transport in broad terms. There are hugely different types of AI, some of which are absolutely critical. Usually those don't involve a huge amount of compute power, and some of them are incredibly wasteful or harmful. And they're two very different things, and we need a strategy which has, from a starting point, the social utility of AI. Connected to that, we think it's totally reasonable to ask developers to put their hands in their very deep pockets and invest in new additional renewable energy, at least equivalent to the power they'll be drawing, not relying on offsets or carbon accounting. Thanks very much.
One of my favourite films is Apocalypse Now, and I'm sort of feel like listening to that presentation that I'm seeing Apocalypse Now, but in terms of these hyper data centres. That's it's quite astonishing, talking about using 26% of the UK's power requirements when they're all built. I mean, that's just it's just incredible. And listening to the people who are promoting them saying they need to be gas powered. Well, that's very climate goal compliant. Not. I'm going to open it out to the rest of the committee to see if there's anything that you would like to ask Oliver Hayes from Global Action Plan, who we've just heard from. However, I'm also going to see if there are any questions that you would like to put to Emma Howard-Boyd, who's kindly joined us in the chamber, and obviously we heard from briefly earlier as the former chair of the London Climate Resilience Review, or anything that you would like to put to Charlie Wood, who is the London Director of the Environment Agency, on any aspect of what Oliver has just said, or any other aspect of resilience going forward that you wish to put to any of the three of them. So I'm looking over here. You want to come in? Anyone on this side want to come in as well? Yeah, OK, so I'm going to start with Assemblymember Polanski.
Thank you. It's a question for Emma, actually. So of all the recommendations that the Mayor's accepted, are there any, some are more complicated because they need powers from national government, or they're more long-term. Are there any they could be doing in the short term that for whatever reason are being delayed, and actually, I guess the question to us, we should be pushing them on hard to do immediately?
Thank you for the question and for inviting me here today. I remain very concerned about heat, but I'm very pleased that we are due to see a heat risk action plan. But I think we need to also understand heat in the context as a multiplier, an exacerbator of many, many other environmental impacts and health impacts. I think if I have a regret about the review, it was not putting in hard timelines for performance against some of the recommendations. I was very delighted when it was published that the Mayor accepted those recommendations, but I also think it's really key that your committee, Chair, encourages the Mayor to engage with central government. And when I think of the opportunities I've had to give evidence to select committees, it's really clear to me that some of the most powerful panels aren't those of the technocrats or the policy advisors, but they are the ones where we get members of the public, those with real experience of those impacts that can resonate most with the members of the Select Committee. So I'm wondering whether there is an opportunity for the committee to encourage the Mayor to take a delegation to central government, which includes members of the committee, but also potentially members of this panel on this side of the table, or those Londoners that can really talk to what it is like to live through some of these events. And I'm always like a deadline. We have London Climate Action Week coming up in June. What might be able to do by then to drive some of the action and delivery which will help the Mayor unlock some of the action that is needed at the city level? There's so much to do, and putting in some sense of urgency and timelines could help drive that delivery in a way that we can all see performance. Thank
Okay,
you.
so maybe some points then to put to the Deputy Mayor at the next meeting about how to take that discussion on heat forward. Assembly Member Hirani.
Thank you. Just going to turn to Oliver, just based on your presentation and something you mentioned there about the levels of backup energy that these data centres hold and store. Now, in most cases, they won't be using any of that, and it's there for a backup. But have you looked at ways in which maybe they can be compelled almost to put that back into the grid or recycle and reuse some of the energy that they're generating, and how likely is it that or what is your feeling in terms of how likely that is to happen?
Thank you. Yeah, I should have been clearer. They are using that backup power all the time because regulations determine that they have to make sure it still works. So they have a very rigorous testing regime where each month they fire up all of their generators for different amounts of time, sometimes all of them all at full power to ensure that they could run the whole data centre if they need to. And the documents in planning applications are very clear that that will have significant impact in terms of emissions. One data centre we were looking at where they detailed this quite clearly was showing that there were 2,000 tonnes of CO2 annually just from testing the backup generators. So when you amplify that across the fleet, it's pretty significant.
I've now seen Assembly Member Roberts and then Assembly Member McCartney.
Thank you. Question for Oliver. It's regarding your point just towards the end of your presentation in terms of the requirement for data center creators or managers, whichever, to actually pay into infrastructure and what have you. We see all too often, those of us who've got connections with planning, viability comes into play when we want lots of affordable houses to be built, but they say, actually, no, we can't run this as profit, we're not doing it properly. What sort of mechanisms would you like to see in place to avoid that sort of in and out running on behalf of the data center operators?
I think the biggest opportunity is the forthcoming national policy statement from the government. They've said this will be coming in the next couple of months, and that's to enable the changes in the planning regime which the government are pursuing, where they are giving data centre developers the opportunity to opt out of local planning and opt into nationally significant infrastructure projects. And I think that national policy statement is going to be very key in setting out what the obligations should be and the considerations that should be gone through when determining planning decisions. That's the best mechanism.
Okay.
At the moment, we are seeing a lot of industry pledges being relied upon, and in fact, that was one of the reasons that the court case I mentioned has proceeded, because the judge has ruled that relying on those industry pledges is not meaningful.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Assembly Member McCartney wanted to come in as well.
Yes, it was a question to Charlie of the Environment Agency, and your last point there about the Thames Barrier. And we saw yesterday that South Wales Council has been the first to buy back properties that they say are too expensive and they can't save from flooding. I'm just wondering, from the Environment Agency's point of view, are you getting the discussions you need from central government about investment in a new Thames Barrier, and what more would you need?
Yes, so we're obviously working really closely with DEFRA on how all the interventions that are set out in the Thames Estuary 2100 plan will be implemented and funded. So that's raising the walls and embankments through central London, upgrades to the assets that we need throughout the whole of the estuary, as well as looking and understanding what that new Thames Barrier might look like. And where it might be situated. So we are. However, I do think that the Mayor could help by contributing into that discussion, and I have had initial conversations with officials at the GLA. So it would be great to see more support and conversations between, regional governments. So it's not just the Mayor; it needs to be outside of London as well, in Essex and Kent, with central government. So just more support, I'd say.
Okay, I've seen that Emma wants to come in, and then I've seen that Assemblymember Mahfouz wants to come in, and then I'm going to, I think, stop the questioning, because that means that everyone will have asked a question, and I'm going to bring Emma in at this point.
Thank you. And if I could just build on the point that Charlie made, but more specifically to planning, I'd like to submit to the committee an article that the Town and Country Planning Association published after the National Policy Framework consultation was published, looking at the different ways that flooding may be being reduced in terms of prominence in the framework. And I think in the light of the decision that was made yesterday to demolish houses at extreme risk of flooding, we also need to make sure that the way the planning policy is moving forward doesn't mean we're building those houses today that in the future will be at severe risk as well. And I think this is something that needs a lot of attention from this committee as well as nationally. Thank you.
Okay, just before I bring in Assemblymember Mafous, I have a question as well, which I'm going to put to Charlie, but Emma may possibly want to come in on, having chaired the Environment Agency. Obviously, the Environment Agency has some enforcement roles. Do you think it has sufficient, we talked about teeth earlier, and does it have sufficient staff to properly enforce in those areas where it is supposed to enforce? And then I'm going to bring in Assemblymember Mafous and give you 2 questions to answer.
So if I do that, Oliver, jaw-dropping presentation in terms of some of those stats, and obviously your namesake Hayes, the town is in my patch. It didn't turn up on the bar charts in terms of both Ealing and Hillingdon, the areas that I represent, but the proliferation of data centres there is just astronomical growth. You talked about obviously some of the measures that are going to be coming into place and things that we need to do going forward, but clearly they have already been sprouting all over the place. Is there anything that we can and should be included in the policies going forward that can apply retrospectively to make sure that we don't lose out on the countless missed opportunities that have happened so far?
Shall I come in first on my one? So around enforcement, so I think over the last couple of years we have improved the teeth that we have, and government has given us more resource and action to be able to carry those things out. There have been a number of reviews around our regulation and the legislation that goes alongside that. So I think that we have made big progress in those areas, and that should help us secure that. The Cunliffe review of our water side of the business is still ongoing, and the water white paper was laid last week. So we should see the outcomes of those by the end of the year. So we're looking forward to seeing what that brings for us. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to unbuild something once it's built, clearly, and we are at a bit of a fork in the road where a lot of this stuff, if it's built now, will be around for a long time. So that's why the interventions are so critical now. I think pushing for far greater transparency, though, is still very important, particularly from the developers. A lot of the time, the final operators are not known. So developers are putting these things through planning, but we don't know who's going to operate them or what they're going to be doing there. And I think if we were talking about real storage centres, we would want to know exactly what was going on inside those storage centres, because there is a huge range of activities, some of which won't be palatable or probably not legal. So I think transparency is very important. The other thing that we're starting to pick up from, particularly in Europe, is almost a kind of land banking going on here as well. Some developers are securing massive grid connections which are fixed and therefore others can't get in, but actually not utilising their data centres anything like 200%, just because they're hoping that at some point in the future they might be able to. And again, full transparency on that, I think would be really a very useful and powerful tool.
Thank you. And the last word, I'm afraid, is going to be to Emma.
Thank you. And I just wanted to touch on enforcement of planning and the importance of the various consultations that are taking place right now. I know there are many that are concerned that those with previous statutory responsibilities are potentially losing that position. But also there's always been, when it comes to planning, the lack of enforcement. So there's being a statutory consultee, but then any decision that is based on building in flood resilience, for example, isn't necessarily followed through with enforcement. So that needs to be so carefully looked at, whether it's your data centres or climate resilience as a whole for London and the country too. Thank you.
I think it came up as a bit of a theme on several of the tables. I just wanted to tease that out. Thank you very much for those answers. We've now reached the end of this session. Thank you to everybody for your contributions, whether asking questions or summing up from earlier on. The Assembly is going to review the evidence that we've received today alongside the evidence we gathered from our previous session earlier on, and also what we received in terms of the responses to our call for evidence. Thanks again to all of our guests and to the Londoners who've contributed to today's investigation into London's environmental priorities and participated in the session. We've got a few more of our very short items of business to deal with. I would kindly ask if our guests can remain seated in the chamber, because it would be slightly disruptive while we go through those. It really won't take very long. To the observers in the public gallery, don't forget, when you're leaving, if you can just return your lanyards. We like to be sustainable, so we will be reusing them with other guests and as you leave City Hall. So can I ask the committee to note the report that you received and the discussion that we've just held?
Noted.
Thank you. Could I also ask you to delegate authority to me in conjunction and consultation with party group lead members to agree any outputs arising from this discussion?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 7 is our Environment Committee work programme. Can I ask the committee to note the work programme for the remainder of the 25-26 year and the additional activity undertaken since our last meeting, which was to visit the Bunhill Energy Centre on the 14th of January. Is that noted? Noted. Thank you. The final item on the agenda is the date of the next meeting, which is the 3rd of March, with the Deputy Mayor for Energy and Environment, and it will be here in this very place starting at 10 a.m. There is no urgent business, and I'm going to draw this meeting to a close.
Thank you.
Thank you.